back on the 1971 Chevelle, the Crown Jewel. What are we doing? We're doing a bunch of different things. First thing we're going to start with, introduce here Morty. Morty, our new dog. We took him in last week. He's been a great addition to our furry family. But anyhow, what we got going on here with the 71 Chevelle, we had our front end. We removed all our front end pieces. We got them in black epoxy. We're getting ready to put this gal back together one more time. So, what my plan is, we're going to put the front sheet metal back on the car, get everything mopped up, make sure everything fits just the way we want it. Then we're going to start attacking our wiring. Now, why do I want to do this? I'll tell you why. Because I want to hear this guy right here come to life. Tired of seeing this pretty gal just sitting here looking pretty? I want to hear this thing make some racket. So the only way we're going to be able to do that is to get our parts together, get our front end hung, get this wiring harness put in the car, get everything wired up, and we'll go through and show you what we have to do to get that handled. I have the original harness. I have a new universal harness, which is going to be pretty slick. It's going to give me the ability to hide my wiring where I want it, give this thing a real clean look. So what we're going to do, we're going to gather some tools, we're going to get our hardware together, and we're going to get this gal put back together. We'll click you back on when we're there. Alright guys and gals, so what we got here, we got our new polyurethane bushings. We're going to get them sat in place. That way we can get this core support put on here, loosely mounted up, because everything we're going to put on is attaching to our front core support. So we'll get this guy put up there. By myself here again in the shop. You know, guys and gals, if any of you know how to teach a dog how to hold a part, let me know, because that would be very helpful. The more moral support here at this shop. They don't do much physical work. Alright. So we're just going to take our time here, get this stuff reassembled, mopped back up. That way we know where we're at for our wiring and any steps we're going to take from here forward. And a lot of you guys and gals will notice, I tend to mop vehicles up quite a bit. It just helps in the long run when you go do your final assembly. You're not sitting there with any surprises coming up and biting you in the butt. Because the last thing you want to do is take a finished car and have to redo something. That is a sickening feeling. Alright, so we're going to get this put on here. Like I said, I'm going to use my head. There's another hand. Check that out. That's using your head. Tighten this front core support at all yet, because what I want to make sure is that I have all the adjustability left for my fenders when I attach them to my body, because everything from the doors back is already set. So I know that I need to set my front end off my doors, and that's really what I'm after here today. I want to get this mocked up, sheet metal hung back on it. I'll probably leave the inner fenders out just for accessibility. We're putting the harness and all in. And I want to get this to a point to where I can start wiring this thing and get this car fired up. That's our main goal. So we're going to keep making progress here. We're going to grab our parts and get this gal looking like a car again. We'll click you back on when we're there. Alright guys and gals, let's get this thing put back on. So what I got here, I'm a driver's side fender. Got a little hardware. We're going to get this guy put back on. So we're going to take our time here, mock this up, get this all lined up nice. Once again. I know you guys and gals have been following me for a while. We're probably like, man, how many times are you going to put this car together and take it apart? I'll tell you, I tend to do that a lot for a couple reasons. I like to take my vehicles apart and completely paint them, inside and out, in the fenders, underneath, everywhere I can, because I want this car to last as long as humanly possible. So what we do is we go the extra mile, take the time, make sure things are right. This just gives me an opportunity, for lack of better terms, to practice putting this stuff on without destroying my finished product. So, the more times you can do this, the more hiccups you're going to run into, the more you're going to be able to work through it and figure out a solution. So we're going to go through here, mock our fenders up, get all this stuff put into place to where we're happy with it. That way we can start running our wiring to get this motor fired up. So we're going to take our time here, get this front end put back on, and we'll click you back on when we're done. Alright guys and gals, here's an example where these shims that they give you in your hardware kit come in handy. So, when you're realigning this stuff, you might say, well, why bother going through all that trouble? I know you're just going to take it off again. Like I said, it's all about practice and getting fit in and getting familiar with the panels that you're trying to preserve when you put it together for the last time. So, we got our shim under there. Got our door gap looking good. Got our byline looking good. Not mad about it at all. So that's a good thing. We're going to get this thing put together. We'll click you back on when we get to the next step. Alright guys and gals, we got the fenders on, we got the core support on, we got our base where we need to have put together so we can start our wiring. So what do we got here? Painless. I'll be the judge of that. Let's see. Let's get this thing opened up. So what we got here, we got a 21 circuit, keyed, in column, universal kit. Here's what we got. So we got a bag, some goodies, a whole bunch of connectors, terminals, little zipper ties, our hazards, grommets. That's our headlight plugs. That is a super long screw. Yeah. Oh baby, looky here. And we got a plethora, that's a lot, of wires. Let's see, what do we got here? Bring this in here, see if you can see it. Yeah. So what this is going to do, this is going to eliminate our non-existent fuse box, which is not in there anymore. With the old glass fuses, now we'll have these mini push-in fuses. Have everything labeled nice. Electric fan, turn signal, all kind of good stuff. Hazards, oh man. All right. What else we got in here? We got some shrink tube, some connectors, a resistor it looks like. Yeah. We got, most importantly, stickers. What else we got? Oh, check out. I guess that's for the outside there. Our box. Some butt connectors, extra fuses, all kinds of crimps. We got some power cord, looks like. And, yeah, words on a paper that we're definitely going to need. Instructions, installation instructions. Now, I'll go through this real quick. Watch this. It's got pictures in this, so I think I might be all right. No, just kidding, guys and gals. This thing, I've done a couple of these. These are awesome. These instructions are amazing. I've used them actually when I haven't even used their harnesses just to wire other projects. So I tell you what, for detailed instructions, they do pretty good. You know, everything you got, it even shows you how to crimp, slip, all that good stuff. How it's laid out, everything you need. Everything, where it goes, how it should be connected in. If you have an original column that you're trying to make and whatnot, you just use all that. Look, there's that plate I told you about. I don't know what that was for. I'm just kidding. I know what that's for. But it has detailed pictures in there, how they want you to mount it and everything, so you know what you're doing. So, it's like anything else. And check this out. Single headlights, dual headlights. You know, all that stuff's important. It's even got our car. It's meant to be. Alright guys and gals, so we're going to get this. We're going to read this little booklet here. We're going to mock this up. We're going to open up this harness, see what it looks like, stretch it out, get it organized, and go from there. We'll click it back on when we're ready. Alright guys and gals, now what we got here, we got our painless harness stretched out. This is the part that's going to go up front for our headlights, our engine accessories, all that good stuff. This part here is what's going to be in the car under the dash, or controls, our headlight switch, our heaters, our ignition. And this here is our tail lights and our fuel, our stuff. So what I got here, I got me a piece of scrap aluminum. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cover plate that's going to enclose that square hole where my original fuse panel used to come through. What I'm going to do is close that off. That way I can put my wiring where I want it. So we're going to have a nice little cover plate for that and be able to attach our new fuse panel to our car. All right, so let me get this done. Get this drilled out. We'll click it back on when we're ready. All right, guys and gals, there you can see I got my block off plate put on. Got our wiring started here. Let's get in the car here and see what it looks like inside. Let's get you down here. All right, yeah, you can't see anything. So, what I got here, all right, we got the engine harness. That's this portion here with our headlights. We got our cluster and our gauges, our ignition switch harness. That's this section here. Plus this. Yeah, there we go. My assistant always turns on the wrong one. So, there, check it out. So now we got our fuse box in there, all mounted, and our panel there. We got a piece of rubber in between the back wiring for chafing and the mounting plate. Still got room to put our emergency brake pedal back in. That looks like a good spot for that. So that's what we're going to go with there. Nice and tucked up out of the way. Still got access to all our stuff. And everything's separated. Comes this way. This is the tail section for the car, so we're not even going to fool with that right now. Main thing that I'm after is going to be this one and our engine harness. So now, what we got to do is we got to come in here, make a decision where we're going to take our engine harness through the firewall. So what we have involved here is our engine harness for our ignition, starter, exciter wire, all that stuff, and our headlights. So that we need to keep that in mind. So we're going to take our time here. We're going to figure out a spot and how we want to go about doing this. We'll click it back on when we're there. All right, guys and gals, there you can see we got our grommet in, got our hole drilled in. Now, you guys and gals that are familiar with these 70 to 72 Chevelles, you'll realize where my wiring is now underneath my inner fender. So, here's where that bolts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my engine management stuff down with the emergency brake, run that over underneath, hide that as much as possible. If you remember before, this came out here, come over top of all this. So now everything's going to come up from the bottom, nice and sneaky-like, to hook all our stuff up. So what we're going to do, we're going to feed that front harness through this grommet here. So let's see if we can do that. Now, like I said, guys and gals, this might be overwhelming to some of you, but everything's labeled. It's just a matter of taking your time, deciding on how you want to route this stuff, and getting it done. Now, I will, see, this is our front harness here that I was telling you about. Now, you're going to want to keep in mind here, okay, it's a universal, so nothing's been terminated. It's all long. It's made for multiple different vehicle applications, multiple different brands. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get my electrical tape, and I'm going to start taping this up to where it stays nice and compact for me to get it through that grommet. So let me get that done, and I'll click you back on. All right, now we got our electrical tape. And what I tend to do is start at the bottom and work your way back to the end. That way you have it nice and tied up. Any loose things you can see, you can grab a hold of and get them nice and orderly. So we'll go through here and tape this just to make sure it's nice and compact. Don't need a whole lot. And like I said, this is a 21 circuit universal harness, so it's going to give us a lot of adaptability, a lot of freedoms to run our stuff exactly where we want it. Because the idea here is you want this thing to look as clean as possible. I don't want to see a bunch of wires just draped over the motor and over top of everything else, just looking all kinds of crazy. Don't want it haphazard, you know, you get what I'm saying? A lot of you might be wondering, why don't you just shove it in a wire loom and shove it through? Well, I mean, you could do that, but then you're going to have to go back through here. Like right here, there's 2 wires. They're cut off short here. So I'm assuming they're not meant to go too far. Let's see what they actually are here. All right. So this is for my brake switch. So those are going to be shorter than, say, what my headlight harness lights are going to be. So you want to keep that in mind. And then luckily for us, our brake switch is right outside of our hole that we drilled in our firewall. So they don't need to be god awful long. You know, when you come to an end, like say like right here, there's a wire, it comes to an end, I'm just going to put a little bit of tape there to keep that all nice and compact. That way it goes through for me. And it gives me a reference point to go back and find it. Same thing here. These are all terminated, different lengths. I'm just going to mark it with my electrical tape as a reference to go back to. The nice thing about this painless harness, and I'm sure a lot of these aftermarket harnesses are like this, they're all labeled. So I guess it's every foot, every 6 inches, something like that, they're marked as to exactly where they're from and what they go to. So that's another little helpful indicator when you're doing these complete wiring jobs. There you go. You see, I just went along there, taped that up, just keeps it nice and orderly. It'll be a lot more easy for me to shove that through that grommet in the firewall. So let's get this going. All right, you want to be mindful when you're doing any kind of electrical work about moving parts or anything that's going to cause friction to your wires. Hence the reason why we put a firewall grommet in there. You never want to put wires against raw metal. You might think, well, there's space between their vibration, running up and down the road, it's going to cause them wires to contact, and over time, it's going to wear through, and then you're going to have a whole nother issue. So there you go. Got that fed through there. Now that's in that grommet. Now I'm going to leave all these wires exposed for now until I run them to their designated areas. And then everything will get zip tied up real nice and pretty and put in wire looms. So we're going to keep going here, pick this apart, see what we can get accomplished. We'll click you back on. Alright guys and gals, there you go. You can see we got that through the firewall. Run this little tape around there to keep that protected. Now we're going to go back through here and cut all this electrical tape off. That way we have full access to each one of our wires and start getting these things spread to where they're going to finally go. Now, like I said, with this painless harness, this thing is pretty awesome. It's labeled. I think it's every 6 inches or every foot or something. So that really helps you keep from getting all confused on which color's what and having to go back and check and reread instructions and all that good stuff. So we'll get this cut apart, start getting this laid out to where we want it. We'll click you back on. Alright guys and gals, we got that all taken apart. Now what we're going to do, we're going to come back here to our main section and we're just going to start reading what these go to. Like this one. Power source. All right, and we're going to start bringing that back to where we need it. So we get that pulled back through here. And we'll start putting that in the direction that we want it to travel. We'll go in and get our next wire. Engine section, AC compressor, which we don't have. So we're going to pull that guy through. Bring it back to where we need it. It's in that harness. Sweet. What we got here? What's this? Oil gauge. That we're going to need back in this section. You'll notice a lot of this stuff's wired together. It's like our front turn signal assembly, all that stuff. That's all one harness. We're going to try to fish that out. So that's the part we'll be able to hide in our inner fenders. At least that's the goal. And like I said, guys and gals, just take your time when you're doing this. This is very time consuming. It can be frustrating at times. Just don't let it be overwhelming. You need lights, you need all this stuff, so take your time. Make sure you do this right. That way you don't have issues when you come back to it. Like I said, that harness there, that's all our turn signals, headlights, high beams, low beams. I believe there's even a horn in there. If not, we're going to have to get one. So that's our headlights to the front, turn signals, all that good stuff. So we'll get that wrapped aside. Let's see here. Yeah, we got headlights. What's this say? Headlights high beam. The other low beam. That's the other nice thing, guys and gals. They give you both sides. It's already pre-wired in this harness. A lot of other manufacturers will just make you pigtail off of their one feed. This gives it to you. And they're marked left and right, all that good stuff. There's the horn. Okay, so that's where we want that as well. Right front turn signal. What we got here? Front light section. Left front turn signal. Park and brake. What do we got here? Front light section. To cooling fan relay. That's also a nice thing. They put a negative relay in there for you. That's the other thing, guys and gals. I don't know if you've had experience with these before, but a lot of these aftermarket wiring harnesses do not come with grounds. So you'll have to ground your lights and ground everything else. But your headlights and everything, they're usually ground on the core support, marker lights, same thing. Just keep that in mind when you're doing these projects. The last thing you want to do is put all this in there and then wonder why it's not working. Alright, so now we got, this is the engine section. Let's see what we got here. Engine section, ignition hot. That's for a brake switch. That'll go down to the frame, this white one. We'll pull him back. I like to untangle these as much as possible. That way, once you put this in a loom, everything's nice and organized for you. So that's going to go down to that section. What else we got? This is ignition hot. Red button, ready? Starter solenoid, that's going to go over there to the starter. Let's get him pulled out. Alternator regulator exciter. What do we got here? Accelerator. All right, brake switch. Here's our other brake switch one. That's going to go down to our brake switch. That's those two. It's coil hot. Definitely need that guy. temp gauge. Well, that's pretty sweet. Electric choke. Yes, thank you. That's pretty convenient. That's the AC and heat. That's to the tack. The nice part about this harness, it has the related wires inside to hook up to your instruments as well. So you have an engine harness, you have a gauge harness, and then you have a tail harness. So they break it up nicely for you. And like I said, everything is labeled. So if you can read and look at pictures and have minimal common sense, this isn't that hard of a project to take on. All right, so there we go. So that's going to be our, let's see here. Told you everything else. Temp gauge, or what's this one say? Oil gauge, and this is, like I said, our AC switch. To heat AC, to AC heat switch, accessories section switches. So we are going to need that. It's going to be for our heater control, I guess. It's going to go over to our box for our motor, whatever we need. So now you can start to see that one harness has now become two harnesses out under the hood. Now I know this looks intimidating and it looks god awful right now, but like I said, we're going to take our time. We're going to go through here. We're going to route all this stuff and we're going to hide as much of this as possible. We want to give this a nice clean look to where when you walk up to pop the hood, people are going to think, man, does this thing actually run? I know this can be intimidating. You get all this stretched out here. But like I said, everything's labeled. Everything's marked. So just take your time and you can get this done. We're going to go through here, clean some of this up, start running these to their designated areas, and we'll click you back on when we're there. Alright guys and gals, now you can start to see we're starting to get our wires run to their destination. And all this stuff is just, I'm just mocking this up, terminating my ends. Got my HEI wired, got my choke wired, got my alternator wires run, my starter solenoid wire run, got our headlights out the front, park lights, marker lights, same thing over here. Now you want to pay attention, guys and gals, especially with these aftermarket kits, especially in your lighting section, okay? One section is going to be obviously shorter than the other, so keep that in mind when you start running this, all right? Because there'll be high beam, low beam, but one of these are way longer than the other, so don't short yourself when it comes to that. We got our horn up front, got our fan cut off, got our gauges here. Yeah, gauges. That just brings up an important point. What are we doing for gauges, friend? Let us know. If they're electrical, we have the hookups for them, but if they're mechanical, we won't need them. Now, we'll go back down through here. Now we have this pretty much where we're going to want it. We're going to leave our ends about 2 foot long just to make extra certain that we have enough material. Because like I said, this is a universal kit. So we'll come in here and snip these off so they're not getting wrapped up in our feet. And give ourselves plenty of extra just in case. And I'll go back through here and we'll end up electrical taping this whole harness. So now I know where everything wants to come out and all that good stuff. Now I can really wrap this up to get it protected, okay? Got our alternator down there we need to wire yet, but that's going to be pretty slick. All our wires are going to come from underneath and jet up in there instead of coming over the valve covers and all that stuff. And we are going to put this in that Painless wire loom. It's like a cloth loom. A lot of you guys and gals remember the old plastic split loom. It's the new version of that. Really nice stuff. Really makes for a clean looking job. Alright guys and gals, we're going to save you the boringness. I think you've had enough of that with wiring. That's one thing with wiring, it is time consuming. But it's one of those things we have to do. Alright guys and gals, you know why we do it. For the love of hot rods and horsepower. Go out there and get yourself a project. Start enjoying it. We'll catch you on the next one.